So, if you guys saw the teaser for this episode, and if you've been following us this far, we would like to say thank you. I know things got a little spicy, maybe a little out of control, and from the bottom of our hearts, we'd truly like to say that we're sorry. For absolutely nothing!
Hell no. Well, thank you so much for indulging us with watching our teaser. Of course, things have been really spicy, and we're really grateful that you guys
Yes, sir.
have been dealing with it. So, thank you again. Now, although there is some truth to our teaser, because this is actually the last episode for 2020.
And we really thought,
Yeah.
that we would get canceled.
Yeah, even though we don't really have a career yet, we don't have that much of a following yet. The smallest people can be canceled because of the most asinine and trivial things, and we're gonna talk about that today. Because what better way to close 2020 than to talk about something that's been happening way too often, and it shouldn't even be happening. Canceling someone over something really stupid? Yeah, it's happening. Shouldn't be. Good Lord, really?
Now, before anything else, before we continue,
Yes.
we just like to state this as an observation.
Yeah?
That this whole culture of canceling other people, of canceling certain personalities, it's become overused.
Overused. It's been weaponized way too often than we want it to be. Now, before we begin, just ripping it all apart, let's just say there is some benefit to it.
Yes.
Because there are certain instances, certain people that haven't been brought to justice for the horrible things they've done. What better way to make people aware of it than to take them to courts? The court of public opinion, that is.
Hence the whole movement to cancel certain people, personalities, movies,
Movements. Yeah.
movies and movements, maybe even companies.
Yeah.
We see it all across the board. But then again, it's been so overused nowadays that there's a word for this in Filipino.
Guess
the word or cancel culture in itself. It's la spaghetti already.
Wow! Whoa! Whoa,
It's
Zach, really
overused.
really leveling up the Tagalog right there.
La spaghetti.
I love it, and that's true. It's way overused nowadays.
Pasta.
It's actually, the reason why we want to talk about it is because people, don't get me wrong, they try. They try their damnedest to actually cancel other people simply for having a different opinion.
And this dates back to our previous episode as well. This can be also very hypocritical for a lot of people out there who want to
Definitely.
cancel somebody else or another movement that they don't necessarily agree with.
Oh my goodness. Because, the internet is just so accessible to everyone nowadays.
And not everyone understands everything that they see. That's why we have stuff like fake news. That's why we have a lot of, ghost sources going around saying things that people who are more on the gullible side might just believe.
Ghost sources and ghost stories which aren't real. There you go. It's already a horrible combination. And that being said, how there are certain people who have access to the internet who don't lack a certain understanding towards it, and at the same time don't have a certain level of maturity to deal with real life problems. Thus, they use the internet to possibly fix these problems.
Blah 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 is canceled. This person canceled.
Can you imagine? Zach is over party. Hashtag Zach is over party. For what? For saying that I use steroids. Something like that. Did you say that?
What?
Oh, you did say that. Okay. See? Here's the thing. sometimes people don't even... sorry, let me rephrase that. Sometimes people are supposedly canceled for things they didn't even do. Because one thing I'm going to stand by, I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill.
Do tell.
Context matters.
Yes.
It always has. It always will.
Before you react to anything that you may see online, or anything that you may hear, really give it a thought. What's the context behind this? Now, if it were something very heinous, if it was a heinous crime, if it was someone who did a heinous crime, committed something like that, maybe even did something that is not good for the general public.
I like going from heinous to not good.
I gotta switch it up sometimes.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
But yeah, sure. If say a certain public figure was guilty of a heinous crime or doing something very
Inappropriate.
inappropriate,
Unbecoming
disgusting,
of
sure.
them.
Maybe then it's understandable why people would want to cancel him, her, whatever the case may be, because of that.
It's you know how, okay, just a while ago, going back to context, a while ago before we started, before we put on these nice kimonos sponsored by Zach, all right, I said something just out of the blue, because, you know, facing the camera,
Right.
looking at ourselves. I said, oh, Zach, yeah, we look really different without clothes on. I meant to say without any outerwear,
Without
but,
any-
you know, that was my brain fart. I said that.
Context is everything.
Imagine if someone took a hold of that recording and then just spread it all across our workplace. Now they're really going to think that all the jokes Zach and I have about being partners are real. And, well, it's not really going to ruin us. I think we're going to become more
Accepted.
more bankable, you know? Bankable bachelors. The thing is, it was out of context. Within the context, I just explained it, right? So, imagine something way more unspeakable being spread all across the internet without any context. There's actually an argument. Some people nowadays, these people, they like to argue that context doesn't matter. Do you sure?
Do you sure?
Are you for real? Doesn't matter? Are you...
Now, before anything else, the conversation of context with relation to cancel culture,
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword.
Oh, definitely.
It's a double-edged sword in the sense where, like as you mentioned, something could be said about someone. It may or may not be true, but it could ruin that person's entire reputation. It could ruin a person's entire standing in the public.
Yeah.
If they're a public figure.
It could ruin everything they've built, everything they've lived for, everything they've worked hard for, because of one thing taken out of context. Imagine how horrible that would be. And the worst part is, you know, if these people who tried to cancel everyone willy-nilly,
Right.
it would be nice if they were just there. Actually, to be fair, they're not a majority. There aren't a lot of people who do that. But the thing is, they're the ones who make the most noise. They're the ones who are noticed right away. So people latch on to that. Everyone loves the tea. We all love that delicious toxicity. Yeah, we love that. So it's something that becomes a hot topic for a day. And then that people ends up, you know, just being ruined. Did you know that lately, the newest trend in cancellation culture is trying to cancel dead people?
What?
Yeah. Yeah, there was this one issue. I don't know the exact details. I know the context, though.
Okay.
Of I think it was John Wayne.
Okay.
How long has he been dead? Longer than we've been alive.
Yeah.
All right? That's how
Yeah.
long. He was supposedly, or rather, they're trying to cancel him for some statements he made in the 1940s or 1950s, where things were just so much different. Things were less progressive, right? I don't even remember what he said, but they were supposedly offensive.
Offensive.
So there you go.
I'm fragile. I'm a millennial.
Aren't we both? Yeah, we are. But the thing is, what was the context? It was the 1950s. People were less, I wouldn't say less educated, but there were less terms, there were less practices, less things to consider. There was no internet.
You couldn't, like, you cannot expect someone from the 1950s to be politically correct according to how you see it today. In 2020.
Yeah, because the thing is, political correctness didn't even exist at the time. It was the norm. So for you to retroactively try to, cancel someone who's been dead for how long? I mean, how bored are you in a day to actually dig something up, go on the internet, actually do some research? Because, hey, even I didn't know that. Right. Someone had to really dig deep for that quote, that anecdote, just to try and cancel a dead dude. How stupid is that? It's redonkulous, man.
I'll give you a more modern example.
Okay, go ahead.
Kevin Hart, comedian. Kevin Hart, right?
Yeah, okay.
He's a figure that a lot of people just are entertained by, right? He tries to put a lot of positivity out there. That's good. Mm-hmm. But then someone took a real dive into his Twitter and found a tweet from 2009.
Oh, I remember this one. The dollhouse?
Wasn't it dollhouse? He used a term which many people now would consider homophobic. And things were very different back then. I know it's 2020. I know it's only been slightly over a decade. But back then, the awareness was different. Your whole perception of being politically correct was different. It may not have... Okay, maybe it existed, but it wasn't... obviously now more people are knowledgeable. They understand that certain things can be offensive with a lot of people nowadays. And to that we say, yeah, that is the here and the now. That could be the future even. We may even see a point sometime in the future where people need bubble wrap just to protect themselves from, from anything that could possibly shatter them for being so fragile.
Yeah, and the thing is, okay, if we, I think I remember this one. I think it's about him. He has a son, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's about the idea that if his son asks for a dollhouse, he'll hit his son with the dollhouse. I think.
What?
Yeah. I think that was a tweet. Okay. Now, all right, consider that. Of course, outside looking in, you don't know this guy. Let's say you don't know this guy. You just read it online. You think, oh, that's horrible.
What the hell?
Now, let's consider context. Who is Kevin Hart? He's a comedian.
Actor, comedian.
It's a joke.
A lot of people nowadays can't take a joke. Drake even has a song about it.
That being said, do you think he'd actually do that? Of course not.
Of course not.
He of course he has a history in other things like being married and doing other things, but he doesn't have a history when it comes to violence.
But
he's not the kind of guy to do that.
But of course, people nowadays so quick to type whatever. Oh, someone dug up a tweet from 2009. Care. Kevin Hart is canceled.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately it didn't happen because the guy owned up to it. And even though that was a thing of the past, even though he's not like that, he probably won't mention something like that today. People still went out and said, oh, you're going to get canceled. But, him being the guy that he is, apologized anyway.
He did take a blow, though. He was supposed to host the Oscars.
Yeah, that's true.
He had to bow out because everyone was just trying to get him out of there. All right, so, another guy, Tim Gunn, the guy who directed Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
They dug up another tweet from 2000. Yeah, same. I think 2009, 2010.
Was it also of the same nature?
Now, okay, all right. Now this is a bit, tricky, because his jokes, well, they were very dark, and he's not known as a comedian. He's a director. At the time, of course, he wasn't really doing that much at the time. he wasn't really doing a lot of things. Also, I might be wrong. It might be James Gunn, not Tim Gunn.
James Gunn. It's James Gunn.
Tim Gunn's Project Runway.
It's James Gunn. That's the wrong dude, man.
We're trying to cancel Tim Gunn.
That's the wrong dude.
He's such an awesome fashion designer. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't notice that right away.
Anyone who just saw me say Tim Gunn and didn't watch until here, hashtag cancel Carlos. Tim Gunn's innocent, which he is. He's a fabulous guy. But okay, James Gunn.
That's awesome.
See, what happened was, well, his jokes were a bit too dark, a bit too edgy for most people. But I don't think it was enough to warrant Disney firing him, because GOTG was doing really well. It's an awesome franchise. Now, for people to dig up some jokes from almost a decade ago, because I think this was in 2018, for them to do that, and fire a guy because of those jokes, well, I'm not Disney. I don't do the hiring,
right.
But in my opinion, a bit too much. Given how much revenue the movies are getting them. Really?
What do you call that? Retroactive?
Yeah, retroactive.
Yeah, that's I guess, can we call that a retroactive cancellation?
Yeah,
digging up stuff. Yeah, okay. Now it can also happen with opinions. People can have a certain opinion.
Definitely.
People can view things differently because they grew up differently. Does that warrant them being canceled? Terry Crews is a really good example. There was a particular movement, all right, that happened over there where he is, and he went out and said, and he a lot of people expected him to be part of this particular movement, and it's good that's there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they stand for something. Is it political? Personally, I don't think so. If I get canceled for that, whatever, dude. I mean, I'm all the way over here anyway. A lot of people from that movement expected him to be with them. He never actually said that he was against it.
He was keeping quiet.
No. He wasn't even keeping quiet. He was just very neutral about things. Like say, you know what? Yeah, it's good that people are speaking out about violence and all that stuff. But at the same time, you got to realize that not everybody is like that.
Yeah.
Which from the outside looking in, if you're from anywhere else, and you can be like, I see where he's coming from. Maybe not straight up agreeing with a certain movement, or at least not blatantly saying, yeah, I'm with this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's enough to warrant his cancellation on my that's just my thoughts. Obviously, I'm with neither one. I think that everybody should be equal regardless of whatever belief or opinion that you may have. But yeah, I mean, people are so quick to pull the trigger nowadays on the keyboard or wherever else they may write comments from. It's just very, I wouldn't even say upsetting. It's just disappointing that, man, that's supposed to be someone whose platform you could use, but at the same time, because they didn't say things the way you wanted, because he didn't say the things you wanted him to say.
Yeah. Once again, it's the whole us and them mentality, and it's horrible.
If you're not with us, you're against us.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed lately is, okay, I don't know if this is par for the course or this is a normal thing, but I noticed how whenever there's someone who, becomes viral, someone who finds fame, almost, basically like the cliche, overnight celebrities.
Right.
People who just become popular very quickly. I notice how suddenly there's a scandal about them. People like to do that. People who suddenly become popular or famous, people like to dig. Well, I think it's normal because when you find someone new, someone popular, and you're interested about them, you tend to stalk them a bit, right? Stalk,
right.
Figuratively.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess you would stumble upon a few things, but once again, the retroactive thing happens. Like, anyone on the internet, for example on YouTube, people who suddenly hit 5 million subscribers, 6 million, 10 million, These are people I haven't really heard about because I just follow certain YouTubers, mostly like DIY things or geeky stuff. So, why laugh at DIY? Hey, kamunduhan. Anyway, the thing is, suddenly I hear about this new YouTuber. Like, suddenly gained 6 million for doing something. It could be gaming. It could be doing artistic things. All right. Suddenly, all right, I'm on board. I like this. Okay, so I'm a new subscriber. Then a couple of weeks later, suddenly he's being accused of certain things.
What sort of things?
Well,
heinous.
It could mostly heinous things. It could be something sexual, something inappropriate, something racist. Anything from the dartboard of cancellation.
Anything touchy-feely?
Yeah. Anything inappropriate, supposedly. Now, of course, this draws up a lot of drama. People talk about it. And then here's the funny thing. No, sorry, funny's not the right word. Here's the thing. I couldn't even describe it. Here's the thing. This person just last week was minding his or her own business, just doing YouTube stuff, doing their craft, enjoying themselves, and suddenly they have to deal with fame. That's the first step. They have to deal with all this new popularity, new exposure. It becomes an international kind of thing. So that's already tough to deal with. Right. I wouldn't know. I've never been that kind of a celebrity.
Who knows?
Yeah, but most of these people on YouTube, they're kind of young. They're like 20, 21, teenagers even. So I'd understand that it would be a bit difficult to cope with this newfound exposure. Now that's already on one hand. They have to deal with that like every day since they became viral. And then suddenly, a couple of weeks later, something new happens. Allegations of some sort. So how, as a teenager, like I couldn't even imagine as a 17 or 18-year-old
how to deal
with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was having trouble dealing with college.
Puberty. And puberty.
Yeah. Dating. Finding a date. At age 17.
And then you have like all these problems just because of...
Which grown-ass men and women already have trouble dealing with, who've been in the business for decades. They have trouble dealing with those kinds of things. Imagine someone who just found it or just stumbled upon it yesterday.
We'd like to put it out there once again, the context is everything.
It does matter.
It matters.
For me, like, a lot of these movements, a lot of these things, a lot of these online accusations and such have been happening a lot. And it's important to be socially aware about them.
Yeah.
Because, well, they happen around you.
It's good to be aware.
Yeah, it's good to be aware.
And it's good to question everything.
Be critical about it. Because what most people expect when they start a movement, it doesn't matter what kind it is. Since, of course, I'd like to believe, I want to believe, that these movements are done for justice. I want to, okay? That's
for awareness.
Awareness,
for
justice,
awareness.
The greater good. That's what I want to believe. Now, I'd understand that whoever starts it would want people to latch on to this movement because it's for the greater good, which is good.
You don't have to go along with it. If you grew up differently, if maybe it just doesn't agree with your principles or whatever stuff you were taught as a child, sure. I mean, there's no harm in you not joining.
Yeah, but the thing is, once again, we go back to context. We go back to nuance, understanding all the details, understanding every side of the story. It's not black or white. It shouldn't be that way. There are always details that you need to dig up, things that you need to consider before you nail someone onto a cross or before you nail that coffin shut on that person's career, on that person's livelihood. You need to consider everything that person has done, and you need to find any kind of detail that would probably make this person guilty or innocent. Because once a person is actually legitimately canceled, they really can't bounce back from that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it before. There are people who have faced certain allegations, faced certain criminal cases. We don't really know. Well, some of them, of course, they were found guilty.
Yeah.
Some up in the air. You see how it's affected these people. So imagine how it could affect someone who's just barely started, who's only probably had his foot at the door.
All right.
Right?
Where do you draw the line? Because personally, if it were me and there was this whole cancel someone movement, I mean, I'd like to look into it. Obviously, I've never been the type to straight up go, "Oh, this person's canceled."
Yeah.
I've never been super quick on the trigger.
Get the torches. Yeah.
But I draw the line when there's something really wrong, really unethical, really heinous going on. Because if we're talking about the greater good, or at least for the majority of the people, what I see is right, or at least doable, that is good and not illegal.
Okay.
I'm fine. I may not straight up say it's canceled, but I'll just avoid.
Yeah, in my case, yeah. Well, I wouldn't even consider drawing the line because anything wrong is wrong. So
Yeah.
if it's wrong, it is wrong.
If it's wrong, I'll avoid that.
We'll call a spade because but the thing is, before I even consider subscribing to that, that school of thought of canceling someone, I do my best to actually wait first, see whatever comes up, do my own research. If I'm truly invested in this particular movement, this particular case, this particular person, because let's be honest, if you really admire a certain prominent person and you find out this person's horrible, it kind of breaks your heart, man.
Yeah.
So you yourself would actually try to know more. I wouldn't try to defend any celebrity, because why? Here's one thing I don't understand. When a certain celebrity or a certain prominent person is suddenly accused of something, all the stands just try and defend right away.
I'll try to add on to that.
Go ahead.
All the people who are fans will try to defend. Everyone who's out for that person's throat, out to cancel them, they'll be quick to be on the offensive.
Oh yeah, definitely. Of course.
But the fact of the matter is, no one knows what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah.
No one knows the personal lives.
We like using behind closed doors, don't
Yeah,
we?
well, no one knows what really goes on in their day-to-day lives. And, a very touchy-feely subject right now involving celebrities is Johnny Depp and his ex-wife, Amber Heard.
Yeah.
They have their own... I'm sure they have their own wrongdoings and everything.
How many times did that court case flip-flop, right?
Yeah, because there's always been more proof coming out.
There's new evidence coming out.
But
there
people like to dip themselves into the lives of these celebrities, and if you're really invested in it, okay, whatever, you can voice your own opinion. But to straight up say that someone's canceled, whether either party, and up till today, we don't know everything that goes on behind closed doors.
We don't.
To straight up just say someone's canceled because I agree with this and that, because he or she is not like that. They can't be like that. I mean, that's them. That's their life. And it took a toll on both of their careers as well. Obviously, one getting kicked out of
Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts.
And
the other one
kicked out of Aquaman
from DC Cinematic Universe. Be very careful.
Yeah, and as a fan, don't defend your idol, because first of all, that idol of yours doesn't care about you. They don't even know you. You're making things worse by adding on to a conversation which, probably that particular celebrity or public figure doesn't want to hear in the first place, because they're too focused on having to deal with the situation in front of them. Yeah, sure. Maybe as a general statement, that celebrity would appreciate the support. Yeah. But you as an individual, do you have enough clout to be noticed? Who knows? But the thing is, it's always important to approach everything with a rational mind, with a critical mindset. You need to learn how to discern things. You need to learn how to understand how details work. Understand nuance, the small details that make up a huge story.
And before we wrap things up, of course, context is very important.
Very important.
But we also cannot stress the importance of being your own person.
Oh, yeah.
And when we say that, it's because there are many people whom we've seen, whom we also know personally, who will latch on to a certain movement just because they know a lot of people who are already there.
Because it's convenient too, I guess.
Some people may even do it for clout.
Oh yeah, I like how all the episodes just string together. Yeah, so remember to always, look at all sides of the story, do your research, and just keep an open mind. When something like this happens, you really can't be biased about it. But in this particular case, well, cancellation, I think it's far from over, and
it's overused.
It's overused.
La spaghetti. Let's just call it pasta.
Pasta it is. But 2020 has been a wild year. That's an understatement.
Yeah.
But chances are, well, this is very cliche, I know, but wouldn't have been possible without your support. We really appreciate it. Those who've tuned in through Spotify, watched us through YouTube,
yes,
liked our page, probably laughed at the stuff we post.
Probably were triggered by the stuff we posted.
Yeah, those weren't for you though. You're our fans. That's for the people you hate.
If you think we're getting canceled, you know what? That's up to you. But if you still find time to hate in the comments, well, it means you're still a fan because you're still here.
Yeah.
Or at least you're still listening anyway.
By all means, go ahead.
Hey man, to everyone out there, we'd really like to say thank you. And once again, we're sorry for absolutely nothing. You can find us online at Chances Are Pod, at It's Carlos Really, at Zach the Whack. Chances are we will see you again in the next one.
Happy holidays. And, well, we're not going to speak too soon about the next year, but, let's just be ready.
Let's get real. Talk truth. Talk truth. And let it all out. I'm Zach. I'm Carlos. We're speaking feelings. On Chances Are. On Republicast. Exclusively on FM1.